G1 and GS2. Indian Society and Social Justice. How to read the latest Human Devil. OPMENT report. Context. The Human Development Report for 2022 details 6 different human development indices that were released recently by UNDP. Status. India ranks 132 out of 191 countries in the Human Development Index HDI 2021, after registering a decline in its score over 2 consecutive years for the first time in 3 decades. China 79th positions for the first time in its history. The HDR has been compiled since 1990. The global HDI value has declined 2 years in a row, erasing the gains of the preceding 5 years. HDR compiles. Take HDI. Go. Inequality adjusted HDI. The IHDI looks beyond the average achievements of a country in longevity, education, and income to show how these achievements are distributed among its residents. India's HDI fell by 25% when adjusted for inequality. That's because the share of income held by the richest 1% of the population is more than the income held by the poorest 40%. Insights on India. Com19. Gender Development Index. The GDI essentially estimates HDI values for women and men and then looks at the ratio. India is significantly behind the world average as well for Gender Inequality Index. The G looks at the issue of gender inequality by preparing a composite measure using 3 dimensions: reproductive health, empowerment, and the labor market. India is behind major countries and is unequal for its male citizens. Patch. Multidimensional Poverty Index. The Multidimensional Poverty Index captures the multiple deprivations that people in developing countries face in their health, education, and standard of living. India lags here too. Chair. Planetary Pressures Adjusted Human Development Index. Planetary Pressures Adjusted Human Development Index adjusts the HDI for planetary pressures in the Anthropocene to reflect a concern for intergenerational inequality, similar to the Inequality Adjusted HDI adjustment, which is motivated by a concern for intragenerational inequality. Insta links. Human Development Index. Mains links Q. Despite the consistent experience of high growth, India still goes with the lowest indicators of human development. Examine the issues that make balanced and inclusive development elusive. 2016. Prelims link Q. The Multidimensional Poverty Index developed by Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative with UNDP support covers which of the following? 2012-1 Deprivation of education, health, assets and services at the household level 2. Purchasing power parity at the national level 3. Extent of the budget deficit and GDP growth rate at the national level. Select the correct answer using the codes given below. A. 1 only, B. 2 and 3 only, C. 1 and 3 only, D. 1, 2 and 3 ans. A. Modern slavery. Context. The Global Estimates of Modern Slavery, a report published by the International Labour Organization (ILO), International Organization for Migration (IOM), and International Human Rights Group Walk Free, said 50 million people were living in modern slavery in 2021. About modern slavery. Modern slavery is comprised of two principal components: forced labor and forced marriage. Both refer to situations of exploitation that a person cannot refuse or cannot leave because of threats, violence, deception, abuse of power, or other forms of coercion. Findings on the forced labor definition: all work or service which is exacted from any person under the menace of any penalty and for which the said person has not offered himself voluntarily. Forced labor has grown in recent years. The increase in the number of people in forced labor was driven entirely by forced labor in the private economy, both in forced commercial sexual exploitation and in forced labor in other sectors. No region of the world is spared from forced labor. Asia and the Pacific are hosts to more than half of the global total 15.1 million. Forced labor as a concern regardless of a country's wealth. More than half of all forced labor occurs in either upper middle income or high income countries. When the population is taken into account, forced labor is highest in low income countries. Most forced labor occurs in the private economy. Forced marriage is a complex and highly gendered practice. Although men and boys are also forced to marry, it predominantly affects women and girls. Forced marriages occur in every region of the world and cut across ethnic, cultural, and religious lines. Family members were responsible for the vast majority 10 or insights on India. Com. Of forced marriages. Most persons who reported on the circumstances of forced marriage were forced to marry by their parents. Recommendations: ending modern slavery. Forced labor extends social protection, including flaws, to all workers and their families. To mitigate the socio-economic vulnerability that underpins much of forced labor, and to provide workers with the basic income security, promote fair and ethical recruitment, to protect workers from abusive and fraudulent practices during the recruitment and placement process, address migrants' vulnerability to forced labor and trafficking for forced labor. Address children trapped in forced labor. End state imposed forced labor, which accounts for 1 in 7 of all forced labor cases. Partnership and international cooperation. Forced marriage legislative and policy responses should have a gendered lens, including gender sensitive laws, policies, programs, and budgets, including gender responsive social protection mechanisms. Ensure adequate civil and criminal protections in national legislation. Address underlying socio-cultural norms and structures that contribute to forced marriage. Ensuring that women and girls have the opportunity and ability to complete school, earn a livelihood, and inherit assets plays a significant role in reducing vulnerability to forced marriage. Address the vulnerability of migrants, particularly children. Access to legal identity registration procedures is particularly important for migrants at risk of forced marriage. The consequences of declining fertility are many. Context: a below replacement level fertility rate would mean a smaller demographic dividend window than expected. Status: the global population could grow to around 8.5 billion in 2030. Average global fertility has been consistently declining over the past 70 years. The average number of children per woman in the reproductive age group has declined from an average of 5 children per woman in 1951 to 2.4 children in 2020. World Population Prospects 2022. Most advanced economies have their fertility rate below the replacement rate of 2.1, with South Korea reporting the lowest at 1.05 children per woman. India. In India, the current fertility rate for India in 2022 is 2.159 births per woman, as reported by the NFHS 2021. Only 5 states have a fertility rate above the replacement rate. Bihar 3, Meghalaya 2.9, Uttar Pradesh 2.4, Jharkhand 2.3, and Manipur 2.2. Reasons for a steady dip in fertility rates in India: increased use of contraception, more years of average schooling, better health care, and an increase in the mean marriage age of women. Positives of lower fertility rate: lower fertility impacts women's education positively, which in turn lowers the fertility of the next generations. With better infrastructure development, better health care, and education, fertility drops and income rises. The spiral of lower fertility leads to a window of time when the ratio of the working age population is higher than that of the dependent age groups. This high proportion of people in the workforce boosts income and investment, given the higher level of saving due to lower dependence. Negative implications of falling fertility rate. A fall in fertility rate beyond the replacement level would have a negative effect on the proportion of the working population, which in turn will affect output in an economy. Though Japan was the first country to experience the implications of falling fertility rates, the increasing dependency ratio has led to near zero GDP growth since the 1990s. Some experts believe that falling fertility could diminish the creative capacity of humankind. An aging population will also affect global interest rates negatively, as the share of people over 50 years will form almost 40% of the population by 2100. Solutions for dealing with fertility decline: reforms in the labor market to induce more flexibility in the labor market would encourage working women to have more children and non working mothers to enter the labor market. Rather than coercive measures, focus on women's education and empowerment policies to boost fertility. Or Germany allows more parental leave and benefits. Or Denmark offers state-funded IVF for women below 40 years. Or Hungary recently nationalized IVF clinics. Or Poland gives out monthly cash payments to parents having more than 2 children. Or Russia makes a one-time payment to parents when their second child is born. Conclusion: though the benefits of demographic dividends are being reaped, the below replacement level fertility rate would mean a smaller dividend window than expected for India. Liberal labor reforms, encouraging a higher female labor force participation rate, and a higher focus on nutrition and health would ensure sustained labor supply and output despite lower fertility. Insta-links: fertility rate below replacement level. Mains links: Q. Evaluate the trends in the declining total fertility rate (TFR) in India. Why are lower fertility rates and higher education rates among women not translating into paid jobs for women? 250 words or Insights on India. Com11. New trends in work culture. Direction: the terms given in this article have continuously been in news. Try to understand them. These can be useful in Society GS1, Social Justice GS2 and Ethics papers. Context: in contemporary times, work, job, or labor have taken different forms, giving rise to new terminologies, issues, challenges, and sometimes debate. What is work culture? Attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors that make up the regular atmosphere in a work environment are what we all know as work culture. Quiet quitting. Quiet firing, moonlighting, hustle culture, 18-hour work debate and work-life balance have appeared frequently in the past few months. Quiet quitting. Quiet quitting refers to employees doing the bare minimum required of them, e.g., leaving work exactly at the end of one's shift, demanding additional pay for extra work, and or setting clear work-life boundaries. Reasons for quiet quitting. Changing work culture. The pandemic introduced many challenges that both increased what is demanded of employees and allowed them to reimagine what alternative work systems could look like. Impact of remote work increased the number of hours employees spend working, thus contributing to increased levels of burnout. Apathetic attitude of employers. Dissatisfaction among employees who believe their managers have little concern for employee welfare. Moonlighting. Moonlighting is the act of working at an extra job beyond regular working hours, usually without the knowledge of the employer. Since the side job was mostly at night time or on weekends, it was referred to as moonlighting. Why do people moonlight? Earn more money. The main reason for going above and beyond an existing job is earning more money. Learn new skills. Working in a different role can allow a person to develop new skills, explore related domains, and connect with more people. Why are employers not happy? Employers are suspicious of this practice often because it can mean that a worker may not give their organization the time it needs and not give any extra time to either organization. 18 hours work, debate and hustle culture. Hustle culture is defined as one that encourages employees to work more than normal working hours. Work is on their minds even when they have free time or on holidays. The major requirement of this culture is to complete a job on target at a faster pace than usual. A LinkedIn post by the CEO of a company advising youngsters to work 18 hours a day, at least for 4 to 5 years initially in their career, faced a backlash and was ridiculed. What does who study on long working hours say? 745,000 people died from a stroke and heart disease associated with long working hours in 2016. Working 55 hours or more is a serious health hazard. Capping hours would be beneficial for employers since that has been shown to increase worker productivity. 12 or Insights on India. Com. Why is it important to have a work-life balance? Siddhartha S., an author of 5 books, 60 Keys to Success with NLP, Thank God It's Monday, and many others suggest. Take work-life balance as critical. Though. Put health before wealth. 3. Devise an incentive system if you want employees to work extra hours. 4. Success has different meanings for different people. Economic success is not the only yardstick to measure the success of human life. 5. Entrepreneur and employee mindsets are different. If an employee has to work 70 job hours for a basic salary, then it is not a great idea. The employee may as well take the entrepreneurship path where there is an opportunity to create a company and to keep the profits. Mains link Q. Do you think rejecting hustle culture youngsters or going for moonlighting is rejecting the idea of work is worship embedded in Indian culture? Discuss. Thus M. India Inc. needs a NEURODIVRSE workplace. Context. In the last few years, inclusion and diversity have assumed importance in most organizations. Key studies on the inclusive workplace, a 2019 McKinsey study. Companies with gender diversity were 25% more likely to have above average profitability. India's best workplaces in diversity, equity or inclusion 2021 report. It states that diverse teams perform better, boosts leadership integrity, heighten trust in the organization's management and multiply revenue growth. What is neurodiversity? Neurodiversity is a notion that every person interacts and experiences their surroundings differently. It includes people with neurodivergent conditions such as attention deficit disorder, autism spectrum disorders, dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, Asperger's syndrome. Status of neurological and developmental disorder. Autistic. Nearly 2 million people in India suffer from this neurological and developmental disorder and are therefore identified as autistic. Deloitte study. It estimates that nearly 20% of the world is neurodiverse. Benefits of embracing neurodiversity. Competitive edge. Organizations embracing neurodiversity enjoy a competitive edge in several areas such as efficiency, creativity, and culture. JP Morgan Chase study. It shows that professionals in its Autism at Work initiative made fewer errors and were 90% to 140% more productive than neurotypical employees. Teams with both neurodivergent and neurotypical members. They are far more efficient than teams that comprise neurotypical employees alone. Neurodivergent individuals. They possess excellent attention to detail and a better ability to focus on complex and repetitive tasks over a more extended period than their neurotypical peers. University of Montreal study test for completing a visual pattern. People on the autism spectrum developmental disability caused by differences in the brain could finish their task 40% faster than those who were not on the spectrum. People with dyslexia, they can think about objects in three dimensions and analyze such objects even with limited information. Way forward, cooperative workplace, human resources and leadership teams must work together to ensure that the workplace is cooperative toward neurodiverse individuals. Assistance to specially abled individuals. The process of building an inclusive culture includes customizing interviews, ensuring day to day assistance for these specially abled individuals, providing proper infrastructure. Conductive conditions. Organizations must not only remove barriers that obstruct the progress of such individuals but also create conducive conditions for them to achieve their true potential. Mentorship program and professional training on shared social and communication skills. Creating the right environment that requires openness and able to change on the employer's part. Insta links. New trends in work culture. Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016. Mains links Q. Do the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016 ensure effective mechanisms for empowerment and inclusion of the intended beneficiaries in society. Discuss. UPSC 2017. Similar can also asked in this year's mains. India Discrimination Report 2022 Oxfam India. Context. Oxfam Discrimination Report, Why Women and Marginalized Communities Earn Less in India or Insights on India. Com 13. Key highlights. Indian women face discrimination in the job market and earn less than men even when they have the same qualifications and experience. Gender discrimination accounts for over 90% of employment and earning gap between males and females. Marginalized communities SC, ST, tribes people and members of the Muslim community also face discrimination. For self-employed SC/STs earn 5,000 rupees less than non-SC/STs. Or non-Muslims earn 7,000 rupees more than Muslims FLFP. According to Indian government data, in 2020-21 women made up only 25.1% of the labor force from 42.7% in 2004-05. Fig. Major issues related to women's health, social, cultural and economic development. Reasons for discrimination. Societal and employers' prejudices is responsible for women's lower wages. A large segment of well-qualified women not wanting to join the labor market because of household responsibilities or social status. Poor access to education or work experience. Recommendations. Incentivize participation of women in the workforce, upskill, safety, flexible workspace, including work from home, more equitable distribution of household and care work, implement living wages, as opposed to minimum wages. A minimum wage is the lowest amount a worker can be paid hourly as determined by law. A living wage is an amount an individual or family would need to make to avoid living in poverty. This amount is usually higher than the minimum wage and is not mandated by law. Discrimination in the labor market is when people with identical capabilities are treated differently because of their identity or social background. About Oxfam International. Oxfam is a global movement of people who are fighting inequality to end poverty and injustice. It was formed in 1995 by a group of non-governmental organizations to share knowledge and resources and combine their efforts in the fight against poverty, injustice and inequality. Insta-links, social justice. Mains links. The article can be linked to GS1, Indian Society, as well as GS2, Social Justice, and GS3, FLFP. Q. Gender wage disparity in India is among the worst in the world. Discuss the reasons and suggest solutions to this problem. 250 words. Domestic work. The burden that women bear. Context. 75% of women across India undertake time-consuming efforts every day to ensure their families have water, referred to as domestic drudgery. NFHS 5. Domestic drudgery. It refers to menial, distasteful, or hard work. Drudgery affects women from an early age. Consequences of domestic drudgery: exhaustion, musculoskeletal disorders, lower immunity, higher mental stress. It threatens women's physical safety. It can impact cognitive development and education levels among children. Issues faced. National Commission for Women Report. 2005. Longer queues and worse quality of water and losing 4-5 hours to collect water. Council on Energy, Environment and Water Report 2021. Difficulties in refilling gas and increasing prices. 52% of women in rural India go for firewood. How government interventions can save women from domestic drudgery. Banaskantha, Gujarat. Researchers found that when the indoor piped water supply is coupled with job opportunities through micro enterprises, time released from water collection is converted into income earned. Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana. LPG cylinders received under the Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana have saved time and improved the health of women. 14 or Insights on India. Com. Conclusion. Restructuring household roles. The restructuring of household roles and responsibilities would be ideal such that men contribute equally at home. Systematic investment. A more systematic investment, driven by sustained economic growth and better state capacity, in the delivery of quasi-public goods is also essential. Insta-links, Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana. Mains link, Q. Performance of welfare schemes that are implemented for vulnerable sections is not so effective due to the absence of their awareness and active involvement at all stages of the policy process. Discuss UPSC 2019. The gender pay gap, hard truths and actions needed. Context. India is among the most important countries when it comes to the global economic growth and structural transformation story. But asymmetries still abound in the country's labor market. Impact of the pandemic on women. Income security, due to their representation in sectors hard hit by COVID 19. Family responsibility. Gender division of family responsibilities. Child and elderly care. Many women reverted to full time care of children and the elderly during the pandemic. Global Wage Report 2020-21. Massive downward pressure on wages and disproportionately affected women's total wages compared to men. Gender gap in India. Women earned less. Indian women earned, on an average, 48% less compared to their male counterparts in 1993-94. National Sample Survey Office NSSO, the gap declined to 28% in 2018-19. Periodic Labor Force Survey PLFS 2020-21. The pandemic reversed the progress and showed an increase in the gap by 7% between 2018-19 and 2020-21. Gender-based discriminatory practices. Lower wages were paid to women for work of equal value. Undervaluation of women's work in highly feminized occupations, enterprises and motherhood pay gap. Lower wages for mothers compared to non-mothers. Constitution and the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women CEDAW, by ILO, it provides an international legal framework for realizing gender equality in addressing the intersecting forms of discrimination and vulnerabilities among women and girls. Steps taken by India. Minimum Wages Act in 1948, Equal Remuneration Act in 1976. Code on Wages. Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act MGNREGA, Maternity Benefit Act of 1961, Skill India Mission, Equal Pay International Coalition, EPIC. Conclusion. Achieve UN Sustainable Development Goal 8. Achieving full and productive employment and decent work for all women and men and equal pay for work of equal value, by 2030. Closing the gender pay gap. It is key to achieving social justice for working women, as well as economic growth for the nation as a whole. Challenging the Special Marriage Act of 1954. Context. The Supreme Court dismissed a writ petition challenging provisions of the Special Marriage Act ACMA 1954 requiring couples to give a notice declaring their intent to marry 30 days before their marriage. What does the petition seek? Article 21. This provision in the Act violates the right to privacy of the parties. Article 14. The requirement violates the right to equality under Article 14 of the Constitution since no other laws prescribe such a requirement. What are the provisions that have been challenged? Section 5 of the ACMA. It requires couples getting married under it to give notice to the marriage officer 30 days before the date of marriage. Section 6. It requires notice to be entered into the marriage notice book maintained by the marriage officer, which can be inspected by any person desirous of inspecting the same. Section 7. It provides the process for making an objection, such as if either party has a living spouse, is incapable of giving consent due to unsoundness of mind, or is suffering from a mental disorder resulting in the person being unfit for marriage or procreation. Section 8. It specifies the inquiry procedure to be followed or Insights on India. Com 15. After an objection has been submitted. What did the court say? SC rejected the writ petition on the grounds that the petitioner, 35-year-old Athira Sujata, was no longer an aggrieved party as she had already solemnized her marriage under SMA. Rules and laws in different states. Haryana. The Haryana government has laid down 16 prerequisites which ask couples to issue a notice in a newspaper and that such notices be sent to their parents. No objection certificate. In certain states, couples have to seek a no objection certificate from their parents. Maharashtra. The Maharashtra Department of Registration and Stamps publicly shares the details of couples marrying under SMA on its website. Love Jihad Law. 11 states passed anti-conversion laws. Example, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, etc. How do these provisions make couples vulnerable? Harassment by antisocial elements. Public notices have been used by antisocial elements to harass couples getting married. Of FIC's incompetence, there have been instances where marriage officers have gone over and beyond the law and sent such notices to the parents of the couple. Example, Muslim woman in Delhi being confined to her house by her parents in March 2020. Special Marriage Act. The SMA is a law which allows the solemnization of marriages without going through any religious customs or rituals. People from different castes or religions or states get married under SMA, in which marriage is solemnized by way of registration. Insta links. Special Marriage Act 1954. Mains links Q. Critically analyze the provisions of the Special Marriage Act 1954. Changing the age of consent. Context. In Rama banned Rama v. The state of Karnataka. The Karnataka High Court quashed criminal proceedings of rape and kidnapping under the Indian Penal Code, under the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences POCSO Act 2012. It was based on a complaint of a 17-year-old girl's father against her 20-year-old partner. Protection of Children from Sexual Offences POCSO Act 2012. It was enacted to protect the children from offences of sexual assault, sexual harassment and pornography with due regard for safeguarding the interest and well-being of children. Consent of person under 18 years. Under POCSO, the consent of a person under the age of 18 is irrelevant, regardless of the nature and circumstance of the sexual interaction, or the particulars of the person with whom it takes place. It defines a child as any person below 18 years of age. Issues. Criminal justice system. A number of young couples in consensual and non-exploitative relationships have found themselves embroiled in the criminal justice system. Sexual offenses. Boys, young men are charged with sexual offenses without proper investigations. Institutionalized in children's homes, the girls are treated as victims and institutionalized in children's homes when they refuse to return to their parents or their parents refuse to accept them. Related judgments. Vijayalakshmi V. State Rep 2021, the Madras High Court observed that punishing an adolescent boy who enters into a relationship with a minor girl by treating him as an offender was never the objective of the POCSO Act. Need of reforms in law. Social realities. The high rate of acquittals shows that the law is not in sync with the social realities of adolescent relationships. Blanket criminalization. Consensual sexual acts involving older adolescents erodes their dignity, best interests, liberty, privacy, evolving autonomy, and development potential. Burden on courts. It also impacts the delivery of justice as these cases constitute a large burden on our courts. They divert attention from investigation and prosecution of actual cases of child sexual abuse and exploitation. Conclusion. Prevent criminalization. There is a compelling need for law reform to revise the age of consent and prevent the criminalization of older adolescents engaging in factually consensual and non exploitative acts. Other features of POCSO Act. Insta links. POCSO Act 16 Insights on India. Com. Mains link Q. Examine the main provisions of the National Child Policy and throw light on the status of its implementation. UPSC 2016. Q. With reference to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, consider the following. UPSC 2010-1. The right to development 2. The right to expression 3. The right to recreation. Which of the above are the rights of the child? A. 1 only, B. 1 and 3 only, C. 2 and 3 only, D. 1, 2 and 3 ans, D. The tedious process of adoption. Context. District magistrates (DM) have been empowered to give adoption orders instead of courts. All cases pending before the courts have to be transferred. Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Amendment Bill 2021, Section 61 of the JJ Act, authorizing district magistrates and additional district magistrates to issue adoption orders by striking out the word court. Empowerment of DM. The district magistrates can inspect child care institutions, evaluate the functioning of district child protection units, child welfare committees, juvenile justice boards, etc. Concerns over the revised rules. Start cases afresh. Cases already before courts for the past several months will have to be transferred and the process will have to start afresh. Issues with parents registering for adoption. A delay in such an order can often mean that a child can't get admission into a school because parents don't yet have a birth certificate. Awareness about the cases. Parents and lawyers claim that neither judges nor DMS are aware of the change in the JJ Act, leading to confusion in the system and delays. What is the adoption procedure in India? Adoptions in India are governed by two laws: Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act, 1956, A. Dattaka home ceremony or an adoption deed or a court order is sufficient to obtain irrevocable adoption rights. Juvenile Justice Act, 2015. Parents have to register on CARAS portal, after which a specialized adoption agency carries out a home study report. What are the challenges? Adoption pool. According to the latest figures, there are only 2,188 children in the adoption pool, while more than 31,000 parents waiting to adopt a child. Trafficking. Less availability allows traffickers to take advantage of loopholes in Hammer. What is the Hague Convention? The Hague Convention protects children and their families against the risks of illegal, irregular, premature or ill-prepared adoptions abroad. Conclusion: Need for child-centric laws, optional, enabling and gender-just special adoption law like in other countries. Check malpractices. There is a need to check malpractices and improve monitoring. Insta links. Child Adoption Regulatory Authority CARA JJ Amendment Act. Mains links Q. Examine the main provisions of the National Child Policy and throw light on the status of its implementation. UPSC 2016. As India ages, keeping an eye on the elderly. Context: The United Nations marks October 1st as International Day for Older Persons, as part of the organization's efforts to draw attention to healthy aging. UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs UNDESA World Population Prospects 2022. People over 65 years, 16% of the world population by 2050 is expected to be made up of people over 65 years. Most populous country. The report projects India's population to be 1.7 billion by 2050, having overtaken China to be the world's most populous country. Issues involved: the prevalence of non-communicable diseases, such as diabetes, hypertension and heart disease is higher among the elderly. Public health system. The change in demographic structure will increase the pressure on public health systems that are not geared to deliver universal health care. The Hyderabad ocular morbidity in the elderly study homes. Over 30% of the elderly in the study had distance vision loss and over 50% had near vision impairment. They needed reading glasses. The study also explored the many links between vision impairment and an elderly person's mental health and confidence. People with impaired vision, they have greater fear and awe. Insights on India. COM17. Risk of falling a major cause of disability and hospitalization among the elderly. Why is eye care at the forefront? Cutting-edge imaging technologies and telehealth, creating portable devices and apps that remove access issues for those who cannot travel far. Cross-subsidy models. iHealth in India has many cross-subsidy models to help alleviate the financial burden on individuals. Way forward, iCare can catalyze a model of elderly care. A package of interventions, including assistive devices for sight, hearing, and mobility, or referrals to psychiatric support for depression or other mental health issues. Primary care to be accessible. The future of elderly care needs to be long term, comprehensive, and integrated, and must be oriented towards primary care to be accessible. Financial status. All kinds of socio-economic realities work to ensure that no elderly person is denied care irrespective of their financial status. Insta links. Issues related to elderly people. Mains links Q. Despite the consistent experience of high growth, India still goes with the lowest indicators of human development. Examine the issues that make balanced and inclusive development elusive. UPSC 2021. Education. UGC proposes clustering of colleges. Context: The University Grants Commission (UGC) has finalized guidelines for transforming colleges and universities into multidisciplinary institutions. Background: Promoting multidisciplinary institutions was a key recommendation of the National Education Policy 2020. Guidelines for transforming higher educational institutions into multidisciplinary institutions. These aim to help state governments and universities frame appropriate rules and policies. Key highlights: academic collaboration through clusters. The UGC has suggested academic collaboration between institutions through clusters of higher education institutions (HEIS) in order to promote multidisciplinary education and research in online and offline modes. Cluster system importance. The cluster system will help single stream institutions with poor enrollment. Such centers will improve the grades in National Assessment and Accreditation Council (NAAC) accreditation of affiliated colleges during the initial phase. The member colleges in a cluster will continue to function as affiliated colleges under the university in the initial phase. After the initial years, the affiliating university may affiliate the cluster of colleges as a single unit. The merger of single stream institutions with other multidisciplinary institutions under the same management or different management, expanding the number of departments in a college or university by adding new subjects such as languages, literature, music, Indology, sports, etc. Credit mobility. Students opting for courses offered as a result of collaborations and mergers can also avail of credit mobility between partnering institutions. The National Governance Division of MAIT has developed the ABC platform, which allows students to open an academic account at HEIS of interest, store credits earned from them for receiving degrees and diplomas. Student orientation programs. The guidelines also identify student orientation programs as an important element to familiarize them with the new options available to them. Capacity building for faculty. It suggests capacity building for faculty so that they can teach, train, and research in multidisciplinary academic programs such as annual refresher program in teaching ARPIT, as well as investment in learning assessment tools. Setting up education departments in universities and colleges. They will teach curriculum design, pedagogy, communication, and writing to future teachers. National Education Policy 2020 Multidisciplinary Institutions. It envisages that by 2040 all HEIS should aim to become multidisciplinary with student enrollments in the thousands. Underserved regions. It also says that more HEIS will be established and developed in underserved regions to ensure equity and inclusion. Creating new institutions. By 2030, there should be one large multidisciplinary HEI in or near every district, achieved by creating new institutions apart from consolidating, expanding, and improving existing HEIS. Related article. Fall in school enrollment to continue till 2025. NCERT enrollment in primary stage. School enrollment in primary classes grades IV started declining in India in 2011, a trend which is set to continue until 2025, according to a projection and trends report prepared by the National Council of Educational Research and Training NCERT. Fall in growth rate. The council has attributed this dip in N18 Insights on India. Com. Enrollment to a fall in the growth rate of India's child population. A decline in upper primary and secondary stages. The upper primary classes V8 and secondary stages IXX started witnessing a decline in enrollment in 2016 and 2019, respectively, the report stated. Rise in girl students. The share of girl students rose to register an increase of over 1000%. SCS and STS. The declining pattern of enrollment of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe children is very similar to India's enrollment total pattern. Users of the report, policies and programs, it will help policymakers frame appropriate policies and programs. New schools. The number of new schools to be opened or upgraded new teachers. The number of teachers required is decided on the basis of the number of children to be potentially enrolled in the system. Insta links. NEP 2020. Mains link Q. The quality of higher education in India requires major improvements to make it internationally competitive. Do you think that the entry of foreign educational institutions would help improve the quality of technical and higher education in the country? Discuss. UPSC 2015. Funding public education. Currently, the government is asking universities to generate their own fund or privatize. General Financial Rules of 2017 encourage all autonomous bodies to maximize the generation of internal resources and attain self-suf. Efficiency. Government expenditure center Jor state on higher education it dropped from 0.86 0.86% of GDP in 2010-11 to a measly 0.5 to 0.52% in 2019-20. Issues with the privatization of education. Non-inclusive, substantial increase in fees and other charges from students. Inequalities. The heavy dependence on privately managed institutes as a means of education often perpetuates inequality in accessing higher education. Other challenges. Recommendations. Kothari Commission precursor to the 1968 policy, higher education should have been getting at least 2% of GDP. The National Education Policy (NEP) vision. Public education, promote increased access, equity, and inclusion through a range of measures, including greater opportunities for outstanding public education. Increase in public investment. NEP endorsed a substantial increase in public investment by the central and state governments to reach 6% of GDP at the earliest. The NEP 2020 envisages enrollment in higher education to be nearly double by 2035. Insta links, Kothari Education Commission. Mains links, Q. The quality of higher education in India requires major improvements to make it internationally competitive. Do you think that the entry of foreign educational institutions would help improve the quality of technical and higher education in the country? Discuss. UPSC 2015. Basic skills are poor in Hindi, but poorer in regional languages. Context. Foundational learning of students in Hindi is poor, but their performance in regional languages in some states was even worse, according to a survey by the Union Ministry of Education and the National Council of Educational Research and Training (NCERT). Key highlights. National Report on Benchmarking of Oral Reading Fluency AIM. It aims to assess the foundational learning of children at the end of Class 3. Hindi. Around 53% of Class 3 students in 18 states surveyed either lacked or had limited knowledge and skills in reading and comprehending the Hindi language. Proficiency in regional language. Kannada. Analyzed in the states of Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka and Kerala 59% of students either lacked or displayed limited skills. Assamese. 67% of students couldn't perform well in Assam and Meghalaya. Malayalam. 56% of students couldn't read or comprehend Malayalam properly. Khasi, 61% of students couldn't perform well Urdu. Assessed in 13 states, 65% of learners couldn't perform well. Skills in math. The study found that the most basic no law. Insights on India. Com 19. Agent skills and numeracy were either lacking or limited in 48% of Class 3 students. Worst performers. Among the states, Tamil Nadu was the worst performer, followed by Nagaland and Jammu or Kashmir. Limited skills with numbers. In all, there were 11 states with more than 50% of students who either lacked or had limited skills with numbers. National Education Policy 2022. Three-language formula. It advocates for a three-language formula where two of the languages are native to India. Mother tongue is a medium. It says that the medium of instruction till at least class 5 or preferably till class 8 should be in the mother tongue, after which it can be taught as a language. Foundational learning. It also emphasizes the importance of foundational learning. Nippon Scheme. It is a national mission to enable all children at the end of class 3 to attain foundational skills by the year 2026-2027. It aims to cover the learning needs of children in the age group of 3 to 9 years. Importance of multilingualism. Equal status. It gives equal status to all languages and there's enough work, history and research on this. First generation learners. Children come from different backgrounds, and in some cases, they are first generation learners with not much support at home. Democratic. It accepts that the teacher is not coming from a place of authority and is only correcting spellings and pronunciations. Interlinks. NEP 2020. Mains link Q. National Education Policy 2020 is in line with Sustainable Development Goals for 2030. It intended to restructure and reorient the education system in India. Critically examine the statement UPSC 2020. Reforms and the task of getting teachers on board. Context. The education system in Andhra Pradesh is changing rapidly following a slew of reforms that have been ushered in by the government. Aim of the education reforms. Equitable and inclusive. To ensure that all children have access to quality education within an equitable and inclusive classroom environment. Participation. Making them active participants in the learning process. Objectives of reforms. Critical thinking. Shift the focus from content retention to building critical thinking and problem solving abilities. Holistic learning process. Making the learning process more experiential, holistic, integrated, inquiry driven, and enjoyable. Importance of app based attendance system. Attendance. A platform to record the attendance of teachers in government schools across the state. Update on children. Parents will also receive SMS updates on their child's arrival and departure from school. Teacher absenteeism. It checks teacher absenteeism. Issues. School restructuring program. It calls for a merger of classes 3 to 5 in primary schools with high schools will further contribute to the school dropout rate. Reapportionment of teaching staff in the state. It will only increase their workload in addition to shrinking existing teacher posts. Face recognition app by the school education department, asking teachers to download it on their personal mobile phones and record their daily attendance. Teachers have cited issues of virtual security reasons. Conclusion. part of reforms, as teachers are central to any change in the education system. They should not be left out of the realm of the reforms underway. Incentivization. The government could think of employing effective motivation and small scale incentivization to find a middle ground and make them partners in the ongoing journey. I in education. State of Education Report for India 2022. Context. UNESCO has released the State of Education Report for India 2022. Artificial Intelligence AI in Education. Findings. India has the highest relative AI skill penetration rate, over 3 times the global average. AI literacy is increasing and is important for India. India has a one size fits all approach. Using personalized and intelligent AI based tutoring will help learning become diversified. India should consider teaching ethics of AI, correct algorithmic biases and discrimination in AI, involve the private sector and PPP in developing AI based products. Use AI for equality, equity, inclusion and improved learning outcomes. Use AI for the inclusion of linguistic diversity. 20. Insights on India. Com. Issues. India lacks policies for AI in education, lack of digital infrastructure, increasing use of AI for fakes, cheating, focus on memorization based education instead of critical thinking. Government steps. NEP 2020 emphasizes using digital tools, including AI, in education for meeting the skill based demands of Industry 4.0. CBSE has AI as an elective subject for its ninth grade classes. National Program on AI, Aravat Artificial Intelligence Research, Analytics and Knowledge Assimilation Platform, National Strategy for AI. Conclusion. Government should consider AI with the aim of 5 Is that stand for inclusiveness, indigenization, innovation, investment in infrastructure or international cooperation. About the report. It is the fourth edition of the annual report of UNESCO with the aim of increasing the application of AI in education in India. About UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, founded in 1945, HQ, Paris, is a specialized agency of the United Nations aimed at promoting world peace and security through international cooperation in education, arts, sciences and culture. Interlinks, AI and robotics. Mains links, Q. As with most technologies, there will be positive and negative impacts on society as artificial intelligence continues to transform the world that we live in. Examine 15 Q. With the present state of development, artificial intelligence can effectively do which of the following? UPSC 2021. Bring down electricity consumption in industrial units. Do. Create meaningful short stories and songs. Theme. Disease diagnosis. 4. Text to speech conversion. 5. Wireless transmission of electrical energy. Select the correct answer using the code given below. 8, 1, 2, 3 and 5 only B, 1, 3 and 4 only C, 2, 4 and 5 only D, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 answer D. Health. Reduction of child mortality. Context. As per the recently re- Context. As per the recently released Sample Registration System SRS Statistical Report 2020, India has witnessed a progressive reduction in IMR, U5MR and NMR since 2014. The report is released by the Registrar General of India RGI. Other findings. 6. States UT have already attained the SDG target of NMR less than equals 12 by 2030. Kerala 4, Delhi 9, Tamil Nadu 9, Maharashtra 11, Jammu or Kashmir 12, and Punjab 12. 11. States UT has already attained the SDGs target of U5MR less than equals 25 by 2030. U5MR for females is higher 33 than for males 31. Basic terms, crude birth rate, it is expressed as births per 1000 population. The total fertility rate is the average number of children a woman would bear at her reproductive age. The current fertility rate for India in 2022 is 2.159 births per woman, a 0.92% decline from 2021. Neonatal deaths within the first 28 days of life of an infant U5MR. The mortality rate of children aged under 5 years. The infant mortality rate is the number of deaths of children under 1 year of age per 1000 live births. About SRS. The SRS is a demographic survey for providing annual estimates of IMR, BR, doctor and other fertility at the national and sub-national levels. It was started in 1964-65 by the Registrar General of India. About RGIO. Insights on India. Com 21. It was founded in 1961 by the Government of India under the Ministry of Home Affairs. It conducts and analyzes the results of demographic surveys including the Census of India and the Linguistic Survey of India. SDG Target 3 Health. By 2030, end preventable deaths of newborns and children under 5 years of age. Aim to reduce neonatal mortality and under 5 mortality. Insta links. SDG Report 2022 Child Mortality. Mains links Q. Besides being a moral imperative of the welfare state, primary health structure is a necessary precondition for sustainable development. Analyze. UPSC 2021. India lacks a complete pediatric cardiac care service. Context. Congenital heart disease (CHD) is the most common congenital disorder. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention (CDC) It is responsible for 28% of all congenital birth defects and accounts for 6% to 10% of all infant deaths in India. Prevalence rate in India. According to the Pediatric Cardiac Society of India (PCSI), congenital cardiac anomalies are 1 in every 100 live births. Reasons for the negligence of pediatric cardiac care. Economically unviable. Creating a comprehensive pediatric cardiology care service is usually considered economically unviable, resource intensive. It requires infrastructure investment that politicians and policymakers choose to evade. Issues involved. Infrastructure problems. There are 22 hospitals and less than 50 centers in India with infant and neonatal cardiac services. Center location. Most centers are located in regions with a lower burden of CHD. For instance, Kerala has 8 centers offering neonatal cardiac surgeries for an estimated 4.5 lakh annual childbirths. Populous Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. They do not have a center capable of performing neonatal cardiac surgery. Poverty. Transporting sick neonates from states with little or no cardiac care facilities to faraway centers for accurate diagnosis and treatment burdens parents financially. Non-availability of equipment. There is the non-availability of crucial equipment that is essential for the diagnosis of heart diseases in the unborn. Congenital heart disease (CHD). They are problems with the heart structure that are present at birth. They may change the normal flow of blood through the heart. Congenital heart defects are the most common type of birth defect. Way forward, neonatal care and management. Pediatricians say antenatal detection of congenital anomalies is crucial for neonatal care and management. So developing related infrastructure is a step in the right direction. Learning from states, Kerala's Reading for Little Hearts aimed at early detection, management and support to children with CHD. The Tamil Nadu Chief Minister's Comprehensive Health Insurance Scheme offers free specialized surgeries. The National Health Protection Scheme Ayushman Bharat, it will financially assist poor families. Implementing this scheme is a step forward. Maharashtra, Karnataka, Gujarat and Andhra Pradesh have already started. Insta links. Child mortality. Mains links. Q. Appropriate local community level healthcare intervention is a prerequisite to achieving health for all in India. Explain. UPSC 2018. Public health need not be led by doctors alone. Context. There is a suboptimal representation of public health professionals in state and central advisory bodies of health. Public health. It is the science of protecting the safety and improving the health of communities through education, policy making and research for disease and injury prevention. What constitutes a public health worker? All those who work for the state or central government are public sector health workers. What is expected out of public health workers? A. S for public health workers, academics, activism, administration and advocacy. Epidemiology and biostatistics. Good understanding 22 or Insights on India. Com. Of evidence generation and synthesis by having a good grounding in epidemiology and biostatistics. Able to monitor and evaluate programs by conducting surveillance, interpreting data and routine reporting. Role of administration in public health. Administering, from a primary health center to the district, state, and national level. Implementing, managing health programs, addressing human resource issues, supply and logistical issues, etc. Micro-planning, for program delivery, team building, leadership as well as financial management to some extent. Principles of organizational management. A good understanding of the principles of organizational management and health administration is key to acquiring this competency. 4 competencies for the specific or general problem, environment or nutrition or infectious disease, health policy, health economics, health advocacy, global health issues. Resistance from medical fraternity. Resistance of the medicalized public health fraternity for public health professionals to have a medical degree. It has resulted in denying nursing, dental, and other health professionals the to contribute more to public health. Lack of skills. Many doctors and other health professionals work at the grassroots level. Of skills. Many doctors and other health professionals work at the grassroots level. But they do not become public health professionals as they may not have the necessary skills. Clinicians with training in epidemiology and biostatistics. They are not qualified to be public health professionals as they lack essential and critical expertise along with appropriate perspective. Training duration. Short training or even a year-long distance learning course cannot create a public health professional the way it cannot create a physician or a cardiologist. Conclusion. Recognition of public health, health professionals, the government, and the public must recognize public health as a specific set of competencies and give it the importance that it deserves. The Health Ministry's recent proposal for the creation of cadres for public health professionals and health management at the state, district, and block levels is a welcome step. Quality of public health training. There is a need to look at the quality of public health training being provided, which will attract the best and the brightest people into this discipline. Insta links. Issues related to health sector. Mains links. Q. Critically examine the role of WHO in providing global health security during the COVID-19 pandemic. UPSC 2020 set up a new regulator for medical devices. Context. The Central Drugs Standard Control Organization (CDSCO) is falling short in effectively regulating the medical devices industry, observed the department-related Parliamentary Standing Committee on Health. Therefore, it recommended a new regulator for medical devices in the country report. Parliamentary committee presented report on the subject, medical devices, regulations and control to Rajya Sabha. Key recommendations. New regulators. New legislation should set up a new set of regulators at different levels for regulating the medical devices industry. New regulator to involve institutions, such as IISc, CSIR, DRDO and network of IITs to test medical devices for safety and efficacy. Ministry to work in synergy with state governments, to impart the necessary skills to the local medical device officers. Mechanism to regularly designate state medical personnel. Designate them as medical device testing officers so that the mandate of the legislation can be implemented effectively. Department to start a research linked incentive RLI scheme, in line with the PLI scheme. The department should facilitate academia industry partnerships for undertaking research projects. Other recommendations. More certified medical devices testing laboratories, robust it enabled feedback driven post market surveillance system, medical device registry, particularly for implants, measures suggested by the committee, having adequate common infrastructure including accredited laboratories for standard testing in various regions of the country. It would significantly encourage local manufacturers to get their products tested for standards, reducing the cost of production, which ultimately will improve the availability and affordability of medical devices in the domestic market. Need for developing a robust it-enabled feedback-driven post-market surveillance system for medical devices to evaluate the efficiency of specific medical devices. Medical device registry, particularly for implants, should also be made to ensure traceability of the patient who has received the implant in order to assess the puffer. Insights on India. COM23. MATS of the implant, single window clearing platform, for the application of the license for manufacturing, export, and import shall also integrate all these bodies involved in the regulation of medical devices. Department of Pharmaceuticals (DOPE), Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizer in March this year released an approach paper for the draft National Policy for the Medical Devices, 2022. Targets by 2047. Set up National Institutes of Medical Devices Education and Research (NIMERS) along the lines of the National Institute of Pharmaceutical Education or Research (NIPERS). India will be the home or originator of 25 high-end futuristic technologies in medtech medical technology. Will have a medtech industry of 100 United States dollars minus 300 billion size with 10 to 12% of global market share. Related news. National Medical Devices Promotion Council, which takes up important issues of the medtech industry, was reconstituted recently. It comes under the Department of Pharmaceuticals. Also, a few months back, Drug, Medical Devices, and Cosmetics Bill 2022, which separately defines medical devices and regulates online pharma, was put up for public comments. Interlinks, Regulation of Medical Devices. Mains links, Q. How is the Government of India protecting traditional knowledge of medicine from patenting by pharmaceutical companies? UPSC 2019. What ails the current approach to Ayurveda? Context. The article discusses a few challenges to Ayurveda in the present context. What is Ayurveda? Ayurveda is an alternative medicine system with historical roots in the Indian subcontinent. It is based on the idea that disease is caused by an imbalance or stress in a person's consciousness. Ayurveda is heavily practiced in India and Nepal, where around 80% of the population report using it. Significance of Ayurveda, ancient science and Indian heritage, an alternative way of seeing diseases. In Ayurveda, it is believed living man is a conglomeration of three humors: vata, pitta or kapha, seven basic tissues: rasa, rakta, mansa, meda, asthi, majja or shukra, and the waste products of the body, i.e. mala, mutra and sweda. Holistic. The treatment approach in the Ayurveda system is holistic and individualized, having preventive, curative, mitigative, recuperative, and rehabilitative aspects. Focus on prevention. Challenges: ineffective treatment in emergency cases, no uniformity. Different medicinal plants are used in different geography for the treatment of the same disease. Lack of interest and promotion at the global level, shortage of specialized practitioners and research, outdated theories. Ayurveda's ancient treatises cannot be expected to retain relevance in their entirety in today's time. The theories contain useful portions alongside obsolete ones. Simplistic details, e.g., on urine formation. The Ayurveda text posits that tiny ducts from the intestines carry urine to fill the bladder with no role for the kidneys. This has been outdated. Wrong belief. The widespread belief among its academics that ancient texts, by virtue of their being divined by sages in deep yogic states, retain timeless relevance. What needs to be done? A dispassionate sifting through their contents is a prerequisite for their prudent practical use. Reverse pharmacology, using documented clinical experiences to research in Ayurveda. Government steps. Ministry of Ayush, Ayurveda, Yoga and Naturopathy, Unani, Siddha, and Homeopathy. In 2014, New Millennium Indian Technology Leadership Initiative (NMITLI) research in Ayurveda. As part of it, Kerala has been promoting Ayurveda as a way of improving immunity in the general population. Proposed WOO's Global Center for Traditional Medicine, Jamnagar, Gujarat. It will be the first and only global outpost center for traditional medicine across the world. Conclusion. As a medical system, Ayurveda is valuable immensely for its observations, only marginally for its theories, and not at all for its speculations. The sooner there is reform and updation of theories as per modern science, the better people will be benefited from it. Related fact: Boer Committee was set up by the Government of India in 1943 under Sir Joseph William Boer to survey the existing position regarding the health conditions and health organizations in India. Insta links: Ayurveda in surgery. Mains links: Q. Adaptation of Ayurveda for current use comes with its challenges which need to be acknowledged and resolved. Discuss. 250 words 24 O. Insights on India. Com. Schemes. More than half the funds for Poshan Abhiyan are unutilized. Context: more than half the funds for Poshan Abhiyan are unutilized. Fourth progress report released by the Niti Aayog. Key findings: utilization of funds. Less than half the funds set aside for the Poshan Abhiyan have been utilized by India's states. Mobile phones and monitoring devices. States and Union Territories UTS with poor distribution of mobile phones and growth monitoring devices emerge as those with low fund utilization. Poshan Abhiyan funds. Only 3 states used more than 50% of their Poshan Abhiyan funds between 2017-2018 and 2018-2019. This improved marginally to 12 between 2017 to 2019 and free 2019-2020. System readiness and capabilities interventions which has improved compared to the previous progress report. Human resources, infrastructure, supplies, training, and capacity building. Performance: on a scale of 0 to 100, only Punjab scored less than 50 among the large states. Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur, and Mizoram were the poor performers among the small states while no UT scored less than 50. The report listed 5 key elements of the Poshan Abhiyan scheme. Impact package: deliver a high impact package of interventions in the first 1000 days of a child's life. Technology and management: strengthen the delivery of these interventions through technology and management. Frontline workers: improve the capacity of frontline workers. Malnutrition: facilitate cross-sectoral convergence to address the multidimensional nature of malnutrition. Community mobilization: enhance behavior change and community mobilization. Poshan Abhiyan. The program seeks to improve nutritional outcomes for children, pregnant women and lactating mothers. Launched in 2018 with specific targets to be achieved by 2022. Aim: reduce stunting and wasting by 2% a year, total 6% until 2022 among children. Anemia by 3% a year, total 9% among children, adolescent girls and pregnant women and lactating mothers. Target: to bring down stunting among children in the age group 0 to 6 years from 38.4% to 25% by 2022. Poshan May. The month of September every year is celebrated as the Rashtriya Poshan May or the National Nutrition Month across the country, under the NRLM key themes: Mahila and Swasthya Bachcha and Siksha Poshan Bhi Padhai Bhi, gender sensitive water conservation and management, traditional food for women and children in tribal areas. Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana, National Rural Livelihood Mission, the NRLM. It is a centrally sponsored program, launched by the Ministry of Rural Development in June 2011. Aim: to eliminate rural poverty through or promotion of multiple livelihoods or improved access to financial services for rural poor households across the country. to reach out to all rural poor households and impact their livelihoods. Insta links, Poshan Abhiyan. Mains links, Q. Can the vicious cycle of gender inequality, poverty, and malnutrition be broken through microfinancing of women SHGs? Explain with examples UPSC 2021. GS